a conversation with Eli and Lu Bevins of Eli Lu Entertainment. And let me tell you guys something. We haven't started yet, but I just have to say that I've followed these two young ladies. We've just really met last year.
Yeah, it feels longer, right?
We've kind of circled around. We know a lot of the same people,
Right.
but we hadn't really come into contact with each other until the award show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but kind of like a troller. I'm serious. I watch people, and
Right.
especially people that are doing great things. I watch, and I always take notes. So even if I don't say anything, if you're doing good stuff, I'm a firm believer in imitation being the sincerest form of flattery. So if I see someone doing something that's working, I incorporate it into what I do. So a lot of times people say, "Well, why does your show look like this?" I say, "Because I look at other people and I see what they're doing, and I say, okay, can I add that in?" So if you guys are just tuning in, we are about to have an amazing 1 hour conversation with Eli and Lu Bevins of Eli Lu Entertainment. And if you guys don't know who they are, then I suggest you Google them and find out, because these are two of the most talented and prolific content creators out there. Don't sleep on them, folks, because they are phenomenal. And it's an honor and a privilege to know these two young women and to actually be working with them, collaborating. Big word there,
Definitely.
collaborate network. So
Appreciate you for that
yeah,
introduction.
appreciate you guys. Well, it's all truth. It's all truth serum here, as Derek Hammond says. It's all truth serum. So you know what? There is no time like the present. So we gonna get this thing started. And if more
Oh,
people join, phenomenal. If not, share it with your friends and tell them they need to be here, because we are about to get some knowledge gems and all that other good stuff.
all
Let
that
me,
good.
yeah.
All that.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Floyd Marshall. I am the founder and creator of the IFAP Awards and the Independent Film Association of Philadelphia. I am also the creator of the Film Collective, which is our bi monthly screening for independent filmmakers. I've been in the business for about 15 years now, doing this and doing that, and decided to take my talents and start my own film festival. So that's what I did about 6 years ago. Fast forward to today, a lot of things going on in Philadelphia, due to the current COVID epidemic.
Mm.
And things have changed. A lot of things are going digital. And we have two phenomenal young women that I met last year at
Mm-hmm.
the IFAP Awards. Eli and Lu Bevins of Eli Lu Entertainment. These young ladies are prolific content creators. They are phenomenal business women. They are very intelligent. They're very pretty. They're very smart. And it's an honor to call them my friend. So, ladies, welcome to the first digital A Conversation with. What's up?
All
Floyd,
right.
thank you so much for having us. We were really looking forward to this and excited to be on, the show with you.
Yes. Thank you for the introduction. You know,
You
you
have
know,
to add that you have an amazing
right.
film award. You didn't, the phenomenal,
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
It's definitely
Yeah, we had a great time.
yeah. It was a night out with a bunch of friends,
Mhm.
and we did and networked, and it was an amazing event. So
Well, I'm glad
yeah.
you guys enjoyed it. And one of the reasons that I created it was for filmmakers such as yourselves, because oftentimes, oh, there you go. You went away. There you are. Because oftentimes, what ends up happening is you have people that do really great work and it goes unseen. We all kind of get sucked into that whirlpool of wanting to submit our work to the bigger festivals, the Tribecas, the Torontos of the world, the Sundances of the world, and you kind of get lost in the mix. So, you know, when I created the formerly the Philadelphia Independent Film Awards, I wanted to, excuse me, create it for real independent filmmakers and bring them together to have them show their work. And it's worked out pretty well because it led me to a meeting with you two through the Parham brothers. So we're going to jump right into this. And once again, we are here with Eli and Lu Bevins of Eli Lu Entertainment. So I usually like to, when I'm talking with filmmakers and content creators, one of the things that is always curious as to me is what made you two decide that you wanted to be filmmakers and content creators?
So, you know, we've always been writers since we were younger, and transparent. That was our outlet and our, you know, our expression. And many times we didn't feel like we had one, you know, like that was our voice, and everything we did was writing and creativity and just, you know, our upbringing. We didn't have much growing up, but we had creativity and we had creative people around us. So just using that to tell stories as we grew, whether it was poetry and then it would morph into something else. Like we used to write short stories and we would, once we, you know, got older, we wanted to put that in film format. And it took a process to get back to, you know, our filmmaking ambitions. But we've always had that in us, that writing ability, the ability to tell a story, because when you don't have much, you know, you can't access all the things that everyone else has, you have to be creative. And that was our...
Right, for sure. Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail. We come from a very creative family. We had, even from board games and whatnot, our grandfather would make those from scratch out of wood, went to the store to buy it. So, you know, we kind of grew up with that creative mindset already.
Okay.
And so we also didn't talk much. We ran into somebody the other day, said, "You're the twins that used to not talk." But we talk a lot now. But back then we didn't talk much. And so people thought it was weird or odd, but we were writers. We would write everything from stories to stage plays, and we never shared anything. And then high school, Overbrook High School in West Philadelphia, we joined the film club. But again, the school didn't have a lot of, I guess, equipment and whatnot. So again, it still led us back to writing anyway. And then from there, we went to college, computer science, and then we went off to receive our master's in tech. But our passion always circled right back around to being creative and writing. So even on campus, we would write stage plays and to raise money for a club. But essentially, it just kind of grew from there.
Okay. So the creative process, so you went to school, you got your degrees in tech, but your first love was always being creative. So the creative process, what is that like for the two of you? So do you guys normally write by yourselves and then come together and say, this is what I have? Or do you guys sit down and, you know, work on things as a team?
We have a really interesting process because we just talk everything out. So Eli could come and say, our life is a movie and we see it through those type of lens. So she could come in and be like, hey, I was outside and I saw this thing happen and it kind of, you know, a thriller vibe to it. So I think we should write a film about this. And from that point, it's a whole conversation.
Somebody can drop ice cream and I'll be like, it could be the most weirdest situation.
Right.
And for our friends who are into film, it kind of works out. If not, it's a little... But you can see something and then we'll go home and just talk about it.
If she sees a dark alley, she's like, yo, doesn't it look like a movie? Oh, well, what if someone came out of the trash can? And the next thing you know, it's a story. And we literally talk through the whole thing. And then it's weird because our memory is so good from that conversation. Then we write it down.
Okay.
Right. Begin, middle, and end. We know the entire story. We can repeat it back.
We did stage plays in college. And we knew the story so well that, like, she would fall asleep and then I would write and vice versa. I remember one time I did like a certain part of the stage play and I was so exhausted. I like fell asleep literally writing or typing. I don't know what we were writing. We were typing at the time. And I woke up the next morning and she had finished it.
Oh, wow.
And so it was finished. And I actually didn't see it until the ending part of it until we were casting with
the cast.
Cast.
Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's good.
After rehearsal, she goes, oh, that was nice seeing you put in there. And I was like, yeah, thanks.
Wow.
But we already knew what the story was going to be.
Yeah.
So we can kind of pick up. We do that on the regular anyway.
Okay. So it sounds like the creative juices never shut down.
No.
Yeah.
No, it won't let you.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I think when you are a creative person, regardless of what your life, it'll always lead back to your passion.
Okay.
It's going to lead you how, shape, or form. So we just, whatever we did, wherever we went, so we were in school for computer science, bachelor's of computer science, minor in aviation, but we put on stage plays.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
so we were our way back to it anyway.
So now, do you guys hate waking up in the middle of the night? And the reason I say that is because of the fact that your mind is always turning with an idea. So for me, I really don't like waking up in the middle of the night because I know that if I wake up, everything's just going to rush into my head. Do you guys have that? I guess I call it, is it a problem? I don't even know if it's a problem, but
actually that was me for the past 2 days. This interview, and that's how I was in college. I would wake up and just had this idea, and I'm supposed to be doing tech stuff, but my mind would just thinking about stories and whatnot. But honestly, every time I wake up, I just wake her up. It could be 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
I know. I have there's no, Lou, wake up. I got this idea. I got to tell you right now before I forget.
Right.
The way it's like, she's like, oh, I got this idea, and I'll wake up, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, Eli, it's 2 a.m.
Right.
And she's like, all right, you got me good this week at 3 a.m. So we're
So now, when you guys wake up, do you actually write if you wake up and something is, right there, do you guys write it down?
We talk about it.
Yeah, we talk about it.
I do the same thing with my poetry. We're also spoken word artists. I typically, when I'm performing poetry, I write it all in my head. I walk around all day long and just write the entire poem in my head, and then I write it down. So I'm kind of the opposite.
Okay.
I just have to in the middle and end, write it in my head, and then we'll write it down.
I'm not that good. If there's a twin that's going to forget something, it's going to be me.
Okay.
So he remembers poems from high school, and I'm like, I wrote something to that. And she's like, yeah, you had a part you don't remember, and I'm like, no.
So it sounds like you guys feed off each other quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, I can't say if it's one way more than the other, or it's kind of like, we definitely feed off each other. In filmmaking, I do most of the filming, and she did most of the editing. It was never discussed like I'm the editor to my twin. It just happened that way. It just so happens that's what we took up more. So I think that's the real difference, is that I do most of the.
And we can do both. I just do most of the editing. I'm not gonna lie. On set one day, I had the camera, and I'm just like, how does she do it? Your arm gets tired. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back here and stick to editing.
Well, you know what? I mean, everyone finds their strength in their comfort level. As I'll speak for myself on this journey that I'm on. When I started out as an actor, then I, segued into, creating content for other people until finally I ended up where I am now. And each part of the journey was phenomenal, but where I am now is the most satisfying. I find that I get the greatest pleasure and the greatest satisfaction out of creating something to, for lack of a better word, elevate other people. It was great writing scripts, it was great creating, characters and things like that. But I think this is what I've always been suited for. And I've had people ask me, will you ever go back to making films? And my answer was always no, until the recent events of what happened with the murder of George Floyd. So now I'm jumping back into the realm of filmmaking for one more time.
And I can definitely, those sentiments, because I feel like that's all a part of the journey of figuring out what it is you want to do and where you want to be. And because I never thought I'd pick up a camera until I had to. And it's not something we wanted to jump into. We weren't even on the path of filmmaking. It's just, we were screenwriters, but I thought that was all I'd ever be, and you're like, okay, I got to get some stuff done. So, and to have evidence of my own work, or, to put my own stuff out there, it led us to different things. But even the route of taking computer science and still led us back here. But a lot of the things I left away actually helps in the work that we're doing in terms of producing, understanding the process was everything I had to go through. So for every wrong turn or or up and down or a thing that I didn't like, I had to go through that in order to figure out where I wanted to be.
And it gives you a deeper knowledge pool. And that's why it's always good for filmmakers, or as I like to say, people in the business of making films. It's always good to know every aspect of the process. Yes. It's not recommended to know one part but then not know the other part, because if your end game is to one day have your work professionally produced by a studio, it's always good to know what's going on so you're not taken advantage of. It's always and we talk, hey, we had this conversation all the time. And I actually saw a post today by a filmmaker, and they said that they wanted to make a film, but they didn't want to have anything with the producing of the film. So they handed it over to someone else, and then things didn't work out because they lost creative control. But then when they complained, the people that was actually doing all the producing said, well, I'm doing all the work. And see, that's why you can't do that. If it's yours, you have to maintain creative control. And with that, to date, how many projects do you guys actually have under your belt as far as filmmaking, spoken word? And let's talk a little bit about that video that you guys just did, which was absolutely fire. I'm gonna let them tell you guys about it, because it was hot. It was hot.
Yeah, the twin one, right? The twin cipher.
Yes.
Okay. I keep forgetting that that's out there, and
it is out there, and it is being watched.
Yeah, so actually the Troy and Trevor Parham, the Parham twins, as many people call them, reached out to us about, putting that piece together. Young Trev's, his son actually created the beat. Wanted to do a cipher, which, we did do spoken word, and I know that they're great writers, but we have never actually heard each other rap. No. So immediately we're like, yeah, cool. And then after I was like, you know what? They never heard us, and we never heard them. But when you know people, you kind of know that it's going to be something great, regardless, because of who's involved. Right. So the creative idea, to pull it together was them, and we got together, and I was blown away by everybody's piece. So this was really cool because it's two sets of twins doing a twin cipher. Everybody went separate ways to write their piece, and we came together to listen to it on the phone, because we were virtually at first.
I didn't even hear the entire piece until she did it in front of the fellas.
It was really interesting because it sort of felt like a little, I guess, experiment, because you four people you think would have different things, and everybody wrote something different, and the lines and the bars are all different.
So I was gonna say, for me, writing poetry, and I guess fun fact, we've been writing raps since 7th grade. Nobody knows this. I've been writing raps since 7th grade.
That was the first time we released.
In addition to poetry, this is the first time ever we put anything out there. Only a handful of people in college actually heard us, because we would stay up to 4 a.m. just writing raps in college, and no one knew. So it was the first time we ever threw anything online. When I'll talk about our Sound Mind mixtape, it's actually more spoken word. It's a mixture of hip hop, rap, and spoken word and poetry, all
in film. Yeah,
put into one. But I was very quiet growing up, and so the only way for me to express myself was through my writing. My stuff here, I was like, man, I was writing some deep, dark stuff, like as young as like 12 and 11. And so, doing this piece with the twins, it's kind of like when you see things happening in society, sometimes you don't have the right words. You don't really know what you're feeling in the moment. We were raised by grandparents, and so, as these things start to come up again, she made it very clear to us growing up that these are the things you're going to have to deal with, even in our own lives of dealing with, this racism and all those things that you go through. And so putting this track together, you just kind of let the words pour out into the paper on how you're feeling. And I just always felt better putting it into some type of art. That's just we deal with it. So.
And fun fact, people used to ask us if we even listened to rap. When we were kids, it was sort of like, oh, you don't even look like you listen to that. But I guess we were supposed to look or act.
Yeah, what does a rap listener look like?
I know, right. Well, when you're, I guess
I go home and I'm like,
we used to go 7th grade listening to Eminem and Twista, popping those little cassette tapes, they go to the glasses and everything. So people always be like, oh, you look like you don't even know what rap is. But
yeah, we've always been writing. We just never did anything with it. But once you we reached a certain age, and I was like, what are we waiting for? Like,
Right.
what's going to know you have any of these
Right.
gifts if you don't? Right. So, yeah.
Talk about that for a little bit, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a very interesting point that you just brought up. The fact that you said people made a judgment based
Yeah.
on what you looked like.
Right.
And then it was kind of internalized, but then you just came to a point where you said, you know what, regardless of what anybody thinks, I need to put this out there.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that a little bit, because, from a lot of the conversations that we've had and a lot of conversations that I've had with other people, there seems to be a recurring theme that
Mm-hmm.
if people can't envision it for themselves, they can't envision it for anyone else. And I talk about, this is something else. I talk about a lot of stuff all the time, but this is one of the main things I talk about. And the reason, that I kind of always circle back to that is the fact that in a creative space is extremely hard to put something together. And it's even harder when you have emotional vampires sucking the life out of you, telling you, well, you don't look like this and you don't sound like that. And why are you doing that? Did you guys run into that early on?
Oh my gosh. In every aspect, because so it just, being transparent, every field we're in, we don't see anyone that look like us, or, like for being Black women in computer science in the tech field, I've seen women come in and disappear. And, grad school, we were the only African Americans in our class. Or filmmaking, you walk on set and you're the youngest, or you walk in and people, they think certain things by the way that you look. For years, I think growing up, it used to bother me because we weren't vocal as much as we are now, where when you're not vocal, people assume and they make up certain things about how your life was. Even our upbringing, you could assume X, Y, Z, and people sometimes even going out of state, they're like, oh, you don't seem like you're from the hood, or you don't seem like, and that, and I've come to conclude that much of that is they're expecting you to be a certain way. They're already made up their assumption of whatever it is. And I think we're at the point in our lives where it doesn't matter what anyone, and I wish I had this 10 years ago, but it doesn't really matter what anyone else think or say about what it is that you do. And the best outcome is to just prove them wrong. And by not focusing on proving them wrong, but just by doing it.
Right. Yeah, you said everything I was thinking, and we've been dealing with this our entire lives. So, at this point, you kind of get used to it. But as a creative, I don't mind it, because I'm like, you know what, I'm going to use that in my content. You know what I mean? I'm going to put it in home, in my art, and it just gives, it fuels that fire.
Right.
And even with, I think if I have to go there as far as art, we were raised by grandparents, and our grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer when we were 13, 14. And we were dealing with a lot of stress and pain at home. It was crazy. We had leaks in the house during the time that he was, downstairs dying of lung cancer. And I remember going off to middle school, and people always had something to say, whether it was your shoe. You don't even have to do anything.
Right.
Your shoes. And they had no idea what we were really going through at home. And I was like, it's so funny how people have this perception. And this is something we never really talked about. It was something we didn't talk about as a family. And it definitely wasn't something I talked about outside of this house. But you go outside, and people would make all these judgments because you're, I guess, a good student.
Right.
And they have no idea what you're going through at home, like the ceiling cave night. On top of that, I'm running downstairs. I heard my grandfather hit the floor last night at 2 a.m. My grandmother didn't. So much going on, and you had to deal with all this. You had to hold it in for years and years. And so now it's just flowing out into our art, into our, into our writing. And I always, our brother, we were joking about this last week, because people make judgments about all of us all these years. And I said, well, one day, when we're ready, we'll tell our story. We'll talk about, because I think it's going to help other people. And I learned that in college. Your testimony isn't necessary for you to hold on to. God gave it to you so you can help other people. So
if I can share this one story, when we were in middle school, right? We never really had name brand. Again, this goes back to creative. And I always remember saving up. Was that a...
That's a, hey. So,
and we went to shoemaking middle. It was brutal. Like, everybody had name brand. But I will never forget, we saved up our money, which was sparse. But we saved up our money. these Reeboks. They were like $45 Reeboks, and it took me. I remember hers is 30, mine is 45. But it took us forever to save up and get these shoes. And I was really excited because I'm like, I got my first pair of name brand sneakers, and I did it on.
Right.
I get to school and I hear people joking on them, and I'm to myself. I think that is weird because it's middle school, but that was the moment where I was like, they have no idea what I went through or the thought process trying to get these name brand sneakers and how I did it on my own.
Right.
I didn't care if they weren't the $200 sneakers, the $45. I know that I worked hard to get there. And once you get in your mind that as long as I'm satisfied,
right,
had a different feel to it once I look back at this story, like, it's so funny because I was getting teased for something I felt accomplished for. So just that little story taught me, like, it doesn't matter what anyone else feels or think. Yeah. I was Reeboks.
And that's interesting, that you could actually bring that story forward to now, because you always have people on the outside who may have the resources to do a certain thing, and your resources are limited or nil, and you put something together on, the blood, sweat, bubblegum, shoestrings, old dirty shoestrings, and you put it together. It may not be, the best production value or the highest quality, but it's something that you put together. And you could do a lot. You'll be amazed what you can do with bubblegum, shoestring, and old dirty sneaker string. But I can relate to that sneaker story because I remember, because it was 5 of us, and my dad was the only one working. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so it was rough. My brothers would wear it, then I would wear it. So I remember when I bought my first pair of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Adidas. And I was like, yo, I'm on the top of the world. I got Kareems, you know what I'm saying? So like, you couldn't tell me nothing. But it was so funny because I had the Kareems where everybody else was wearing shell tops. So even when you make it, you're like, oh, I'm still trying to get there. But you know what? I was like, yo, my Kareems is fly, so I don't care. So we say that to say, regardless of where you are in the process and regardless of what you put together, if you are sincere in the process, whatever you put together, no one can ever tell you that you didn't do that because your name is on it. And you have a lot of people that like to talk. But my thing is always, talk is cheap. I consider it Confederate money. It's worthless. I need to see what you have. I need to see your body of work.
That goes into the idea of us producing our own stuff and your own work, because no one can really, you can control all of that once you take your, instead of waiting for someone to help you and just take the first step by yourself.
That also ties into, I know we're going to talk about this later, that was one of the motives behind our Sound Mind project, right? I got tired of hearing people say, you can't do this, you can't do that, as if there's like a specific rule book when everybody's life and financial situation is different. So one of the things we wanted to do was on a low budget, just with creativity alone. We have so many stories with this project of doing 12 short films of how we're going to do this with little to nothing, just to prove, not prove a point, but more so showing how, art and creativity can go a long way with just the resources you have in front of you if you look hard enough for it. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? We're going to get in that 2 minutes. I got all my stuff written down. As you get older, you have to actually write things down. So one of the questions that I always, because one of the things about a conversation with is it's targeted towards women content creators of color. People say, well, why did you do that? I don't know, but I just like the idea. So I said, I'm going to do it. And one of the questions that I like to ask, because even in the indie film realm, it's a male dominated profession. Basically, it is a white male dominated profession, even on the indie level. So as two very successful, and I'm not just saying that, guys, because I'm interviewing them. I know these two young ladies, so I know what they're doing, and I know what they've done. So as two very well-rounded, successful Black women content creators, what's it like running up against, and you kind of alluded to it a little earlier, that's what you always deal with. What's it like having to kind of check people when they don't think you guys are capable of getting this done, or that you know what you're doing, because first of all, you're a woman, and then you just happen to be a Black woman. So
Right.
so speak on that a little bit.
So if I had to just say, I think at least for us, most of our life has always been that challenge of not having to prove people wrong, but more so always finding ourselves in that same situation. And Lou did touch on that a little bit earlier. Actually, when you tell me I can't do something, that's actually giving me fuel to do it. Because we were told numerous times that you can't be creative and be in technology. You can't be an artist. Art is going to get you nowhere. That was my first passion. And so many people like, you're going to college for art. So I changed and I went the tech route, which I'm not mad at. But that was the last time I said I'm going to listen to what other people were. Because the same thing they were telling me, I don't have a degree in graphic design, right? I do have a degree in tech, but it's a different field. And it was something we learned along the way. And as an artist, I'm able to learn these tools and kind of create graphics, which helped us get a lot farther where we are now with our company and all these other projects we're currently working on. And I said, it's funny how God works. So when you tell me that I can't do something, it's laughable, right? Again, getting a degree in computer science, being the first generation college students, that was an interesting story in itself, just trying to navigate that whole thing, being the first. And not having anybody before you to tell you what financial aid is. Got all the way down to on here. Everything we went through from film to picking up a camera. I remember when we first started, people will always say, oh, there's a female behind the camera. We used to hear that a lot. We would just chuckle because it was funny when we first started. And all these different fields that I'm mentioning, as Lou said, we were either the only female or the only Black person, in the room or occupying that space. But I like challenges. I've always kind of been that way. Whatever I felt was more difficult, then I'd rather go that route. It started very young. I remember something as small as being in gym class in elementary school, and they used to say only the guys can hold on to the rope the longest. Oh my God, that's kind of where it started. I was like, I remember she wrapped the rope around my leg and literally was able to sit my entire body on the rope with no hand. And I stayed up there the entire gym class. And since that, like, okay, so every time somebody say I can't do something, I'm gonna make sure that I can do it. Right. You're not going to tell me what I can do, right? So it kind of started, very young, very, very young.
Yeah, we did a speech a while back, and I think Eli actually said this, but she was like, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
And you get that in mind that regardless of what you get into, you're going to be uncomfortable at some point. I mean, that's part of the process now. I don't look to fail. But I know if something's going to go wrong, it will. So I'm already prepared for that. 2 steps ahead. But I think it's part of the process. One of the amazing things about breaking barriers is that sometimes there's no one before you, or there are few before you. But if you don't see something there, then you should be the change, or you should be that change agent.
Like if you're not occupying that space,
if no one's there, then it's an open opportunity for you to occupy space or for you to make a difference. There was a young lady in Indiana, because we went to grad school in Indiana, who was like, oh, there's really no film projects here, no film things. You got to create it.
Yes.
It's not the desirable path.
It's more work.
A lot of the stuff that we went through to get where we are now wasn't desirable. It wasn't fun. Sometimes we felt helpless, but just by continuing, I now know that anything and everything is possible. I often use the first film award we ever received. A long story, but it was a film competition in graduate school, our first time ever entering. We didn't have a crew. We couldn't find people to act in it. The script was falling apart because we didn't have the people. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. We have a 6-hour day, 3-hour classes, 3 hours back-to-back classes the next morning. And it's a 7-day film competition. You have to film it in a week. We're going back and forth like this isn't working. We quit. And then we got back up, and because we aren't quitters, so we knew it didn't sit right with us. And Eli said, look, I'm going to just finish editing. We ended up doing poetry and kind of speaking our truth in the film about what we call with systematic living and using where we came from just to tell us. And we ended up winning first place, $10,000 in LA. And we didn't go because we couldn't afford to go out there. But we were sitting at home, and it came through on Twitter. They announced it, and Jurnee Smollett-Bell had presented the award. And of course, there's one of you, Eli and Lu, at Indiana University, and the only person probably with a film called Systematic Living. And we didn't even believe it. We're like, is this really us? And that was the first time we had won anything in film, but it wasn't the award or the money that
It
taught
wasn't
us
even our
something.
best work.
It wasn't our best work, and the camera quality and everything. But what stood out to me was the story.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the filmmaking. They called their it wasn't the sound, because even that was kind of bad.
Truth,
but it was the truth that in the heart that we put into that story. So it wasn't about the award. But from that day forward, I was like, I'm not going to quit ever again, because we almost missed
an opportunity.
Because we gave up and then we jumped back.
I mean, it takes like almost a year, because they have to go to so many different universities throughout the year. So by the time we submitted, it's like 6 months later by the time we even realized we were finalists, or that we won. So you throw it in the back of your head. It was like, I submitted it.
Right.
It was just submitting. Like, I didn't want to not submit. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we learned. That's the lesson.
That's a phenomenal answer, because hopefully someone is listening that will take what you guys just said to heart. As they say, it's the failure is not in the trying. The failure is in if it doesn't work, then you don't try it again.
Right.
And something that I always like to talk about, and something that I like to tell younger filmmakers or people that are just getting into this space, is get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I tell people all the time, if you are comfortable, then you are not doing something right. If it doesn't make you lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, then something's not right. Because if you're like, oh, it's all good, as you grow, you'll get to a certain point and then you say, okay, that's fine. But then when you're ready to kind of get out of that, I always say, never stay inside that box. Because when you're inside that box and, if you don't have any butterflies in your stomach, like with this today, this is my first time ever doing this. And, I've run an award show, a major award show for 6 years. And I was scared to death, because I'm like, I got to get online. I don't know if anything's going to work right. I'm still sitting here nervous, hoping, nothing shuts off. But that should never stop you, your fear. And a lot of times that is where you separate the people that really want to do this from the people that just talk about it. Because it's easy to talk about it. It's, I'm a this, I'm a that. It's very easy to say that. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? What are you producing? And if you're scared, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And one of the gentlemen that I listen to is a gentleman by the name of Ed Milet. And he always talks about, if you're scared, you're on the right track. Because if you ain't scared, then the dream is not big enough. Somebody else said that. If you're not scared, then what you're attempting to do is not big enough. If it does not scare you, it's not big enough. So enough of me. The Philm Factory. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never been to an event put on by these two phenomenal young ladies entitled The Philm Factory, if you are a content creator, if you are a filmmaker, you are absolutely missing out. Let me say this, and then I'm going to let them talk. When you are in this space and you are spending money, never think of it in terms of spending money. This is what you're doing. You're investing in yourself. You are a business. If you're a filmmaker, you're not a filmmaker. This is what I always say. You are in a business of making films. You are putting out a product which will then be consumed by consumers. So one of the things that you should definitely be investing in, if you are trying to, as I say a lot of times, level up, the Philm Factory is something that you should be attending. It is something that you should definitely be attending. So I'm going to get quiet and I'm going to let these two young ladies tell you about the Philm Factory.
Yes. So we started the Philm Factory in October of 2019. And the reason why we came up with the Philm Factory is because we wanted to provide a platform for not just filmmakers per se, but everyone in the filmmaking room, that's anyone from a screenwriter to a makeup artist to producers to any role on a film set that you don't think of. Typically, when you see competitions, it's either a film competition where you need an entire production crew, or it's, maybe a monologue where an actor can participate. But how would a makeup artist find a competition where she can show off her work or he, if they can't get into a competition, or they never had experience on a film set. So we pretty much wanted to also bridge the gap between independent filmmakers in different realms of filmmaking. So that we were providing a platform, but we were like, okay, we want to have lounges or events where it's not just networking. We would go to countless networking events and kind of leave with nothing. But now, you can showcase your work. You can meet other individuals. You're walking away with, actionable items and deliverables and things, and something tangible to apply to your next project or whatever it is that you want to do. So the Film Factory currently is, Philadelphia's Film Factory. COVID has allowed us to expand outside of the city. So it's, tomorrow we're having a virtual actors open mic night, which is essentially a monologue competition. Yeah, a monetary award is on the table. So that's still open if people want to, sign up on EliLuEnt.com, and that's ELILU ENT.com. So, the Film Factory, we had a amazing set of workshops back in February. Floyd was actually a panelist that we brought in.
Thank you so much. Made me sound like I knew I was talking about.
No, people, we got a lot of great feedback, especially from that one, talking about entering film festivals or entertainment law or how to write a script Bible and, all the things that you don't really think about when you're first jumping into it. We learned a lot ourselves, even from the workshop. So we're going to continue to pump out those type of events for independent filmmakers. People often talk about Philadelphia not being a film city. So that's another reason why we wanted to come up with something. And we want an inclusive community. Sometimes we get into that battle where it's like, oh, they're doing this, we can all come together and share a space.
Yes.
As creatives.
We kind of got tired of that whole Philly narrative that I don't think is, yes, there's some truth to it, but at the same time, we're kind of breaking that, It's a lot of creatives out here. We're working together. And even when we did our 12 short films project and leading up to the Film Factory, we've met so many beautiful people, so many beautiful souls that are in entertainment. They're here in the city. They're writers, directors, producers from all different lives, backgrounds and whatnot. And so just kind of bringing it all together, including and completely getting rid of that stereotype that Philly can't get along, or work together. So the beauty of it is that many of us have our own companies. And so it's kind of like this support system that's very beautiful that's here. And I think people should know that it's here. You know what I mean? It's that narrative just has to stop. I think Philly has a lot of creatives here as far as music, film. And so even combining film together, with the Film Factory, that's kind of what we're about. Even with the competition tomorrow, we don't want to really pitch it as a competition. We want to say, come together and let's celebrate each other. Yes, we're giving out a small monetary award, but that's because we want to also help give back to the filmmakers. It's created by filmmakers and we're helping support other filmmakers. And that's essentially what it's about. So we do have some judges from Richard Lawson Studios who will be joining us tomorrow, as well as you, Floyd, one of our judges.
They padded my resume, y'all. They padded my resume.
Right. So we're going to have a good time tomorrow, just celebrating art. The entertainment industry, along with many other industries, got hit really hard during COVID. But I know entertainment is one of those things where it's often based off of gigs, right? And without any gigs, without being able to film, a lot of people got hit. It was hit hard with it. So we just kind of, trying to add some support.
Okay. So along with the Film Factory, I told you guys, I'm telling you, they are always working. The three of us are actually working on something. We can't talk about it too much, but just to let you guys know, we are in the lab. We are always in the lab. Things are always moving. And see, that's the thing about Philadelphia. There's a perception, and I myself suffered from this perception for a very long time. And here's why I suffered from that perception. Because I wasn't expanding my circle. And see, that's one of the reasons why people, well, nothing's going on here. Okay, well, what you have to do is you have to get out of your circle. And once again, you have to get out of your comfort zone. If you're always moving in the same circles, you have absolutely no idea what Eli and Lu is over here doing. If you're always in Floyd's circle, you have absolutely no idea what Eli and Lu is doing. You have no idea what the Parham brothers, you have no idea because you're not moving in those circles. So it's always great to get out of your comfort zone, get out of your circle, expand your circle and interact with other people. Because when we had a conversation a while ago, it's amazing how we basically had the same idea.
Right.
And that was the first time we'd ever talked about it. And it was like, yo, I was thinking the same thing. So you have so many people here that are probably thinking the same thing. And another thing, they're scared to pull that trigger. They are scared to pull the trigger. Do you know how many times I've started something? I'll give you an example, the Film Collective. When I said I was going to start that, somebody else said to me, oh man, I've been thinking about that for about a year. But here's the difference. You keep thinking about it. You keep thinking about it. Stop thinking about it.
Fearful of competing. And what we said when we got together was, listen, we got similar ideas. Why not just collaborate?
Right.
Why create different small groups? And let's bring on other people. You got a company. Okay, how can we support? You got a t-shirt company. I got a film company. All right, now we're doing a commercial for your t-shirt company, and then we have t-shirts. Boom. So it's kind of working like a soul chain line, like
our Eli Lu Entertainment team. I probably shouldn't shout anybody out because I'll probably end up missing someone, but they know who they are. But the team that and extended team, and I have to say both because, like Eli said, everyone has their own companies, and like Floyd, you will be like our extended team, and I say it that way, that the Parham brothers is because while we're all working in our own circles and doing our own thing, we always know we have support to come back to. Finding a community was something Eli and I struggled with for 10 years almost until we came back to Philly. And now we have our go-to people. Hey, you film, you edit, this person makes music, you make beats, I make graphics. And sometimes it's expensive. So, when we're trading that way, you have to find trustworthy people that come through for you. And our circle has become that go-to circle. I need you, you need me, let's look out for each other. A lot of that was missing before, but the one thing we nail down to our team and everyone in our circle is networking shouldn't be taken for granted, because it's a team sport. It will always be a team sport. If you don't have a good personality or you're not, great with networking, people talk. So it's like, hey, I want to work with this person, but then that happened and things like that, and you're going to end up cutting yourself out of a lot of opportunities. Everybody, hopefully, everybody who knows us can say, okay, Eli and Lu are good people. At the end of the day, I'm a good person. We have a heart, and we want other people to do just as well, or if not better, if I can help someone else.
I think it's that fear, Floyd, again, going back to that perception that Philly's like a dog-eat-dog, city, and we don't help each other. And so I think coming back home after leaving Philadelphia for like 6.5 years, after high school, for like college and grad school, coming back, we were still thinking that, like, oh, this is going to be difficult, starting over, finding a team. And oh my God, it wasn't difficult at all. It was almost like we were waiting to find each other and just being open to different circles and not closing people off. Every time we have a project, I pull somebody new in. And we pay attention when we're on other people's projects. But when we first came back to Philly, Floyd, I think the past 2 years we worked on Stay on Mine, but we didn't work on any of our projects the first 3 years of Big. What we did was we worked on everybody else's projects. There's projects I help people out. I don't even have, like real credits on because I wasn't a part of the project. I was just simply trying to help out, and I didn't want anything. They want anything in return but for them to do well. And so it allowed us to see, who I can work with. Let's see how we can keep moving and how we can support them and how they can support us. And so we just created this dynamic system of support, and it's really beautiful.
It is. And oftentimes, as with anything, when you don't know, you don't know. So, and the interesting thing is when you start bringing people together that really want to do great things, it is the law of attraction. When you start bringing together people that want to do really good things and you start putting it out there that you want to do some good stuff, those are the type of people. You're like a magnet. It's unbelievable. And what ends up happening is the people that ain't about it fall off, because you when you're not about it, you become exposed. Because like when the conversation that we had the other day and you guys said you had to get something, you had to have it by Monday. See, everybody's not built like that. You see what I'm saying? So they'll talk about it, but are you about it? As they say, you could talk the talk, but are you walking the walk? And a lot of times when you're bringing people together that want to do a lot of good things, people will fall off and they're just out there on the periphery. You know, they'll be nipping around your heels and things like that. But it's really good because, you know, even over the last year and even with what's going on right now, I am coming into contact with more people that are serious about their business than I have ever come in contact with over like the last 5 years, which is absolutely crazy. So there is a lot of talent in Philadelphia, but sometimes people just need direction. And, you know, they need someone, you know, like yourselves to say, okay, well, this is what needs to be done. And these are the steps that you need to take in order to get it done. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes. I think with just being transparent with people and letting, because some people are where we once were and some people are farther than we are, and being able to learn from each other, looking at our mistakes and things that we made in the beginning. One of the main reasons was going to networking events, and I would throw my business card up there, and I'm like, man, all we do is blend in. You're gonna take and then throw it on your dresser and then forget who gave you what. And started thinking about how can we stand out. All right, we need a website, we need graphics, we need proof of our work and what we can do without somebody, you know, giving us a hand. What can we do? And so even in grad school, when we won that award, most of it went to helping us survive in grad school. The rest of it, we bought cameras.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And what we thought we needed to create that proof. But yeah, we're always open to working with other people. Our team can tell you that. That's how we all got connected.
Yeah.
They're like family now. So
We call them the Philm family. They know who they are.
Okay. Yeah. So we are almost out of time, but with the time that we have left, please share with everyone what you guys actually are working on now, what's coming up, where can they find you, all that other good stuff.
All that jazz. Okay. So for 2 years, we've been working on a project called Sound Mind. Sound Mind is a cinematic spoken word mixtape. So in short, we have 12 short films that coincide with 12 spoken word tracks, with Eli and myself being the spoken word artist. A little hip hop, a little rap, a little everything in it. We have dance, music, art, you name it. We worked on this project for 2 years. Shout out to Derek Dean producing, Stacey Sherrill, Lauren Butler, Kathy Dance, and Autumn Luke, Kane Morales. There's, you know, others that helped out, Sherry, Rochelle. But this team, you know, with the little resources and things that we had, stuck this. Some of them for 1 year, others 2, and Derek a little more than that. But this vision, we were going to premiere on April 11, 411. But due to COVID, we had to cancel our premiere. We are going to be dropping that project soon. We'll be making announcements soon about that. Eli and myself, I filmed, she edited, we wrote on this project. And when I wrote, I mean, the spoken word pieces as well as many of the scripts. We had a lot of team members also do like maybe a directing or writing piece. Lauren would edit. So yeah, it's a really amazing project. We had approximately or close to 120 or 100 plus actors from the Philadelphia area.
Wow.
And on this project. So shout out to all the actors that came through on this project and gave their time to make this vision come true. Every film is different from the next. So some people are like, what's it about? Well, we have 12 different topics. Some of the films are thrillers, like 1 or 2 comedies or a folktale. We have we have pieces that take place in 1930s. We have pieces present day time, 1980s. Wow. So we filmed in different locations around Philadelphia, from the Eastern State Penitentiary to the Belmont Mansion, which is actually a museum where, you know, the slave route had traveled. Enslaved came up from the north. We were able to film there. We filmed at a boxing gym. So we did a lot on this project. Unfortunately, we couldn't premiere it when we wanted to. And there's always a blessing in the storm. So we know that even though we weren't able to premiere back in April, that when we do, it'll still... it'll still be, you know, a great thing. We're going to definitely celebrate regardless, because it's a 2-year journey. So that's one project. And we have another very exciting opportunity on the table. Can't say too much, but we're going to be announcing it soon. But it's going to be presented by WACO Theater Center in Los Angeles in association with Eli Lu Entertainment, our company, and Richard Lawson Studios in Los Angeles.
And it's basically essentially a poetry show, but also with wordsmiths that includes, book authors and other performers like rappers or people who create lyrics. We're looking at rhymes and literary work.
Yeah,
so we're going to be celebrating that. And it's grown into this beautiful project. I can't wait for everybody to hear more about it. We're going to be looking for wordsmiths around the world. So right now we're working with a fantastic team from Los Angeles all the way to Philly. And so I can't wait to share more about that. So that's as much as I can say right now, but it's coming and we'll be announcing that soon as well.
Yeah. And then, as I said earlier, the three of us are actually working on, it's so much going on. It's so much going on. We're working on something and we can never get on the phone and talk for an hour.
No,
ever. If it's usually on average 2 hours and plus 2 hours plus. We can never have a 1 hour phone conversation. My wife's like, yo, you've been on the phone for 2 hours. I'm like, sorry.
So in short, I can never be like, hey, Floyd, let me talk to you real quick.
There is no such thing as when we get on the phone. But you know what? That just goes to the fact that, we like each other, which is great. We're very comfortable with each other. And, we have a lot of ideas that we're sharing. It's just not 2 hours of fluff. There is work being done. There is work being done, which is all. And I always feel better when I get off the phone with you guys. I really do. And, I'm no slouch. I've done some things, but it's always a blessing to talk to the two of you because I always learn something. I don't care what it is. I always learn something. So where can people find the two of you so they can follow you on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook?
Okay. Yes.
I always let Lou handle this part.
I was looking.
I know. Don't look over here. Get it wrong every time.
I don't know them Twitter handles.
And they all the same. But go ahead.
It's funny because we could both jump in at interview questions, but if we get to this part, she's like, so you can follow us on Instagram at Eli Lu Twins. We're Eli Lu Entertainment on Facebook. We are EliLuEnt.com, and that's LU. So Eli Lu Ent as in entertainment.com. We have a Twitter. That's Eli Lu Ent as well. I think I got everything right.
On our website.
Yeah,
I just said that.
Yeah, I did. We missed our twin. Intermission.
Sorry, sometimes it happens.
That's okay. Because when I do interviews, I can never remember my own Instagram. I'm like, what? I'm in my phone, like, give me a second, and then I have to go scrolling, like, but I'm on it every day. So I'm sorry. Yeah, on one is my name, but then the other one is the IFAP awards. I should know that, but for some reason I get that brain freeze and things just stop working.
Right.
In closing, what advice would you give people just coming into this space? And more importantly, what advice would you give young Black women entering into this space?
The first thing I would say, and I know it's not as detailed, but is do it now. And I say that because even though everything that we got going on right now we're in a good space in terms of future and where we're looking ahead. But I wish a lot of things I wouldn't have been so timid or so unsure and uncertain in the beginning. And I say do it now, even with nothing. When I look at where we've come from, and like Eli said, it's a whole nother story. I'm just looking at what we came up through and all the things we had to go through. Your creativity is going to speak for itself. So don't look at the funds or, you don't have the support system or don't look at the don't haves and all the things you don't have and look at what you actually have and use it to make the world that you're in work for you. And if I can quote Richard Lawson here, actually, he often says, create, a space where art can occur. And I felt like we've done it our whole lives. You may not be in the film city or the right, maybe your household doesn't seem like it's conducive to what you want to do, or maybe you're struggling through something, but you'll get through it. And you just keep your mind on where it is you want to go. If you always look ahead, you don't have to look back.
That was my answer. No. So to add on to that, I would say to one, know that you're enough. Never let anybody else tell you what you can and cannot do. Use it as your driving force, your energy. You take that and you get just as creative as you can with that. And then also be solution driven. I always get fun out of not having something, because the first thing our team, we never folded. We always would laugh and say, "Man, we can't get that," or "We can't get access to a hospital," or "We can't do this." And then we start thinking creative. How can we be creative? So be as creative as you can. Write it down. Write it down. Everything you want to do, write it down and start moving on it. It's one thing to have it written. It's one thing to say you're going to do something, but move on it. A lot of people will tell filmmakers, "Oh, you can't make a film with a phone." If that's all you got,
Make a film.
make a film with a, don't let nobody tear you away from that, because I think that's something I wish I had learned sooner. I knew I was growing up in West Philly. I knew I was growing up with my grandparents. I knew we didn't have money. I knew we didn't have X. I knew we didn't have this. And if I allowed those things to continue to just build up over the years, and think that I can't do something because I never had a film class, I didn't have X, I didn't have this, I didn't, invest in yourself. You're enough. Be creative. And use your failures as learning points. Never, let that be your breaking point, and just go from there. And then again, Eli Lu's here, so if you need support in that direction, just reach out.
If I can quote Eli Lu on our spoken word Soundmind soundtrack thingy, is, if there's a locked door, there's a window.
Mm-hmm.
That's a line off of our Soundmind mixtape, but it's true. Someone locks a door on you, there's always going to be another way in. So go through.
You might have to climb a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but
but there's
a window.
Well, that's where the work comes in. If you got to climb, that's called work.
Yes.
Wow. Folks, what I tell you, at the beginning of this program, I told you that the knowledge bombs was going to be dropped, that you were going to get some gems. And as I said, every single time that I speak to these two phenomenal young women, I learn something. Always be open to learning. Always be receptive. I don't think I need to say anything else except for I am so grateful to the two of you for coming on to my first broadcast. I am eternally grateful for the fact that the two of you are in my lives personally and professionally. As I said, it's enriched my life. I truly am blessed to have the two of you working with me, because I'm telling you guys, these two young ladies are going places. And it's an honor to know them, because guess what? I ain't got no problem riding on somebody's coattails. Tell you that right now. But this has been amazing. I have nothing else to say. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for our first A Conversation with Eli and Lu Bevins of Eli Lu Entertainment. Be well. Go make some films. Peace.
Thanks, Floyd.
Thank you.